Hello, everybody. Welcome to Browns and Beyond, your home for Cleveland Browns content, NFL content, and other sports content. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you stay locked in with all the latest sports content. All right, boys, the time has come. We got the Cleveland Browns taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Happens to be the Baltimore Ravens' 30th year anniversary. And wow, what a coincidence they play the Cleveland Browns. Was there some timing, or maybe was that like a dig against us boys?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? The 30th anniversary of the Baltimore Ravens. Is that is that a salt in the wound kind of thing?
Thanks,
I believe it is. I believe it is.
Yeah. So, Steve, give me your thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens having their 30th year anniversary, and how can the Cleveland Browns stop this anniversary?
The Ravens are celebrating the 30th anniversary season at home, and go figure, it's against the Browns.
Yeah.
In which Art Modell moved our beloved Browns to Baltimore.
Boo.
This has caused controversy amongst Browns fans, as it should. The event includes a classic uniform look and in recognition of former GM Ozzie Newsome.
Yeah.
Ring a bell, Browns fans?
Please, don't go there.
Ozzie Newsome was the Browns' best tight end in history.
Yes.
I feel like this is a smack in the mouth to Cleveland. I really do.
Oh, man.
Now we're getting into it.
Rex is trying to hold back here, ladies and gentlemen.
The Browns go into M&T Stadium Sunday, looking for a win as they lost to the Bengals. The Ravens need a win after losing a nail-biter to Buffalo by 1 point. The Browns have actually won 4 of the last 7 against the Ravens, strangely enough. I think the Browns players alike are taking it personally as well for the fans. Myles Garrett was asked about the Browns' status as heavy underdogs, and he responded with confidence about playing spoiler in a smirk, according to USA Today.
I like that.
So I think the Browns players are going to be ready. I think they want to show up for the fans and not make this an embarrassment. So let's dive right into it, boys.
Let's do it.
It's coincidental that former Raven Joe Flacco is the starter for the Browns, and he's going against his former team.
Had some success there, Steve.
Oh, yeah. Going against his former team for the first time as a visitor in M&T Bank Stadium. He's familiar playing years. He won Super Bowl 47 and got the MVP of the Super Bowl that year as well.
Played incredible in that game stretch.
Oh, he was awesome. They beat the 49ers.
Yep.
Against the 49ers, the
lights
hardball
went out. Yeah, the lights went out in the Superdome that one.
Yeah.
That's right.
I look at this as a revenge game for Joe Flacco, and let's see if he can beat his former team and somehow outplay the man that took his job, Lamar Jackson, who took it back in 2018. Browns rookie running back Quinshon Judkins is activated for the game, and he's going to play, which will help the play of Flacco, and now we can really see some play actually passing. Yeah. And I think Judkins, he's going to get about 12 carries. Maybe I'm going overboard.
Really?
Some people,
you think 12 carries?
Yeah. Some people are saying, I don't know, just a small sample size.
Okay.
10 to 12 carries. I think they're going to involve him. I really do. We got to see what we got. As long as he feels he's in shape and feeling up to form to play and everything.
Okay.
And then this will be the first time we're going to see Dylan Sampson and him together.
Yes.
I like that because I want to see Sampson come in on third down, and I want to see Flacco throw the ball to Sampson.
I like the future of this
backfield.
backfield.
Both of the rookies playing.
Yep.
Ford, he could be a cheerleader on the sideline. We don't need to
get him out. He's a bum.
Yeah, Ford is a soft sucker. We don't need Ford.
I was once told that Ford stands for Found on Road Dead, and I think that might be applicable. Yes.
Wow.
I want to see Joe Flacco throwing to at least 7 Browns receivers, including Jerry Jeudy and the tight ends Harold Fannin and David Njoku.
Yep.
Don't forget my boy Cedric Tillman. He caught a long touchdown pass last season against the Ravens. That was in Cleveland. Jameis Winston was the quarterback, but that secured a win in Cleveland. Again, Flacco, he cannot be throwing interceptions. I'll say it again. I'll probably have to say this week to week, but for the Browns to win, he cannot be throwing interceptions.
Real quick though, let's be fair. And I was listening to a podcast this week, and they had mentioned if there's any way that last week's interceptions, I mentioned this a little bit in the Thursday cast, just put those on Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman.
Yeah, I like that. I wish there was a stat. Dave. I agree.
He should. Not all interceptions are created equal, and those two were not. Joe Flacco forcing the ball into double coverage or something last week.
Steve, do you think they open it up and let Flacco let it rip, or do you think they're going to do what they did last week, which is more of a managed passing game?
That's what I'm getting in here too. I think he's gonna have to go deep sometimes, guys.
Yeah.
Here's the deal: Kevin Stefanski, he's going to have to keep the Baltimore defense on their toes. He has to throw long at least a few times in the game because Baltimore could stack the box and stop the Browns' running game and the short passes and the dinking and dunking.
Yep.
They reviewed the Browns-Bengals game and they may try to stack the box. He's going to have to throw deep. Stefanski's got to make that call. We know Flacco can make that play. This secondary, we know Kyle Hamilton's the best in the business.
Yeah.
But we can attack these corners. I mean, I see us. I mean,
well, last week was evident, but remember who they played last week, though.
Yeah, the Bengals in a bad defense.
Yeah.
Roquan Smith, as we know, great linebacker. Him and Kyle Hamilton lead the way, but I can see Flacco challenging corners Zaire Alexander, who was in Green Bay, and Nate Wiggins, and then Marlon Humphrey is their slot.
Yep.
He was injured last season. I think we can challenge those guys. I really do.
I think there's some truth to that.
And I think he's going to have to.
Yep.
Get into Lamar Jackson. It was a 2-time MVP. That's always a tough man to stop. It's really too bad, boys, that JOK is out for the season because we purposely drafted him to stop Lamar Jackson. Would love to have him today.
Well,
we don't, but
wouldn't you know, it was the Ravens game that may have ended his career last year. Unfortunately, he ran into Derrick Henry, and that he was on the wrong side of that, by the way.
Yeah, that's like running into a bus. I mean, jeez.
Yeah.
It's just too bad with that. Myles Garrett, he has to have a big game for the Browns to have success. Jackson is hard to chase and bring down, as we all know, and he's obviously a dual threat quarterback. The Browns, they need to create turnovers, force fumbles, or get interceptions. Can we get that? It's called a turnover.
Yeah.
Can we get one of them?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
I mean, they're playing good defense. They're stopping. The yards are being stopped, but we need turnovers.
They don't have a turnover.
We need interceptions.
2 years ago, Steve, you watched the game in Baltimore when they pulled off the upset. It was the best
A lot of
half,
turnovers.
They got 2 big interceptions. It was
Yeah.
big. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that's what they need. They need to force a fumble. Wouldn't you love to see Jackson fumble and recover it or get an interception or two? It's our turn for the turnovers. The next thing to do, this is the toughest part right here. They need to do the impossible. They need to stop running back Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Henry's 31 years old, and he hasn't missed a beat. I've mentioned in podcasts before, guys, unbelievable. I put Henry ahead of Saquon Barkley this season.
You mentioned
and after
that
one game, I was right.
Did you go to the doctor this week to get examined?
Well, hey,
Wow. Somebody thinks that's a bridge way too far. Huh?
okay, well, how about this? Here's a stat for you. Henry rushed for 169 yards, averaging 9 yards a carry on 18 carries. Saquon Barkley had 18 carries for 60 yards in the Eagles game. So just saying, Mr. Henry had more than double of Barkley's yards in 1 week.
Well, I'll do a quick chime on this.
Okay.
If you want to say over the course of the last few years, Derrick Henry has been the better back than Saquon Barkley. But based off last season,
because
Saquon Barkley
was the more dominant back, for sure.
Last year. But I do think that Henry
But also, too, he's on some bad Giants teams, too, Mr. Barkley.
Yeah, he did have, but injuries also hurt.
Injuries and having Daniel Jones and a stalled offense. But keep going.
Doesn't help.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying 9 yards a carry in the NFL going against Buffalo, that's video game numbers, guys, right there.
Yep.
The Browns drafted Mason Graham to stop the run.
Yes.
And this is quite a task that we're going to have to see him go out and see if he can do it. And linebacker Carson Schlesinger, he needs to have another big game as well. They're going to have to stop him because the guy's, 31 years old. It's unbelievable. Now let's get to the Ravens a little bit. Zay Flowers is the main receiver that they need to contain. And I'm not scared of Rashad Bateman. He doesn't spook me out at all. I think we can handle him. If the Browns stopped Chase and Higgins last week, I think it's possible for Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, to stop these two guys. One guy that I'm worried about a little bit is tight end Mark Andrews. I know he had that tough playoff game last year, but he seems to be a Browns killer. He seems to always have big games against the Browns.
I do wonder
can we stop him? I don't know.
Well, I think he'll
be
older,
involved.
Steve. He's getting a little older, though. I don't know if this is the same Andrews we've seen in the past, but he can't hurt us. And Lamar likes him a lot, too.
I'm worried about him the most. I'm predicting probably he'll get the most receptions and yards today, and I just hope that we can stop him. I'd like to see Schlesinger show off his pass coveraging skills as well, because he's known for both making tackles. He can blitz. He can do pass coverage. I want to see him. I'd like to see him one-on-one with the Andrews and see if he can do anything there. Many think that the Browns are going to get blown out in this game, guys.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to be the case.
What do you got, Steve?
I think the Browns will play him close.
Okay.
I think Joe Flacco is too good to lose in a place that he played most of his career. The Browns have Judkins back in the running game, so that's going to help tremendously. Myles Garrett is pumped up. The Browns do not want to be embarrassed. I think it's close, but I have the Ravens winning. I hate to say this because I'm usually more optimistic. I got it 31-24 as Jackson and Henry are just too much to handle. But let's go Browns.
Yeah,
let's keep it close.
Yes.
Let's just keep it close. No blowouts. No blowouts.
So we're living in the moral victory world.
2-0 in moral victory.
There we
Oh
go.
my God! Well said, Steve. We're going to turn to Mr. Dave Greenshield.
Yeah.
Dave, give us your thoughts about the Browns versus Ravens today at 1:00.
Well, I'm going to start with what you started with, Brent, and that's the move. I lived through it as in my late 40s, being a Browns fan since the mid-1980s. My first season was actually 1985. Great year for Mack and Biner, by the way, who both went over 1,000 yards.
Over 1,000. Yeah.
Bernie's rookie year. Gary Danielson was also the quarterback on that team. They rotated. And when they moved to 95, it was a gut punch. It really was. It was a lot of it was on Modell, but I think that the city of Cleveland was culpable for this. I think Mayor White and I think the crew up there has to have some accountability for what they did too. As they said, I think, Gund Arena, Jacobs Field, Cleveland Stadium was not in great shape. I was there in 93. I actually was at the last Indians game in 93 against the White Sox, and it wasn't in great shape. That being said, what he did, it really hurt the city, and it was a bad time. Steve, you lived through it.
It was awful.
Brent, I saw you. We talked about it, I think, when you were at the Loft out in Kent at the time, and probably had a little conversation.
Remember, Dave, guys were trying to break chairs out of the stadium. They wanted a souvenir, didn't they?
My uncle still has part of one of the seats.
I'd love to have a chair.
Yeah.
Ooh, I wonder what that's going
Also,
for.
too, I think that move, if I'm not mistaken, I think Modell had some money issues at the time.
He did.
So he kind of get like a bailout by
They
doing
blacked
that
out
a little
all the
bit.
television games.
Well, Randy, Al Lerner, the late Al Lerner, who was his partner, who later became the Browns ownership when the team came back, talked about how bad his money situation. And I remember at the time they went out and got Andre Rison that year, and the story was he had to borrow money to sign Andre Rison that season because he was in such bad financial shape.
Andre, bad moon rising.
That's right. But it was a gut punch. And then when Art Modell got handed the Lombardi Trophy in 2000, it was just
wow.
That
I was sick.
That made it worse.
I didn't watch football when the Browns left. I decided to watch the NFL for a couple of years. I really did. I didn't even watch.
I kind of was the same way. I was more like Steve. I would turn it on here and there. I think the games I watched the most probably like Pittsburgh, because if you remember, Pittsburgh was always on in this area. If I'm not mistaken, the Steelers were the team. I remember a lot of, actually, tell me if you guys know anybody that, I know a lot of people that converted into being Steeler fans.
Yeah.
That makes me
Isn't
ill.
that nuts?
That's just wrong.
I mean,
yeah.
I'd rather you like
Hold on.
the Bengals before.
Did that happen to you guys too? Meaning you saw people that did that?
I did not.
Oh, yeah.
For me, a lot of people I know. I mean, for me, I just went into financial interest. A buddy of mine had a line once. He says, "What are you gonna do once the Browns are gone? My favorite team is gone." And he says, "Well, just put $50 on a team. That'll be your favorite team."
Yeah.
Well, it's legalized now, so we can say that. But I'd say I became bigger into fantasy football at the time, so I was still watching the NFL, over that period of time, because of that aspect. And I'm just a football fan in general. So, in any case, it was a gut punch. But let's get into the game.
Yep.
This should be an interesting homecoming for Joe Flacco. This is a game where both teams are coming off of very, very tough losses last week. Let's start with the Browns. It'll be interesting to see if the Browns defense can continue the momentum from a really good, almost great performance last week, I would say. Steve got into it. They limited the Bengals wide receivers. They were able to get after Joe Burrow. They did everything necessary on the defensive side of the ball to win that game. The front seven will need to be even better than it was last week. Lamar played really well in both games against the Browns. Even in the October loss, he went 23 of 38 for 289 and 2 touchdowns in his kind of duel with Jameis last year. The Browns did force those 2 interceptions in 23, which was big in their upset victory in Baltimore. Remember, Newsom had a pick 6 in that one that was big.
That's right. We could use that today.
Yeah, the best half of football ever by Deshaun Watson. The Browns were living off of that half. And wouldn't you know, after that game, he was hurt.
He was.
And it was never the same.
Then next year, he was throwing it in the bleachers.
That's right. It didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how the Browns D-line, in particular Miles, gets after him. He's had 8.5 career sacks against the Ravens, so he's had some success. He did not record a sack in each of the last 2 games last year, though. The goal, as always, will be to keep Lamar inside the pocket. To me, he's at his most dangerous when he gets outside the pocket, broken plays, and, the defense loses contain. The secondary starts looking into the backfield. It leaves a receiver wide open down the field, and it creates a big play for the Ravens. So the Browns need to be cognizant of that. And, they need to avoid those broken plays, keep them inside the pocket. It'll be interesting to see how the Browns corners match up. Steve said it. They did a great job on Chase and Higgins last week, held them to 59 yards. But, Zay Flowers is coming off of a really good game. 7 catches, 143 yards. I think he's become a solid number one. It's going to be interesting. The tight end position, likely their one tight end is not playing today, but Andrews is playing. And Lamar always likes going to Andrews, so I think they're going to find a way to get him involved as well. The interior of the Browns offensive line, Malik Collins, Mason Graham, we're not going to see Mike Hall this week.
Yeah, he's out. That's right.
So, it's going to be up to them on the interior. They're going to have to play a really good game. The interesting thing is the Ravens offensive line is pretty solid. Linderbaum on that interior is one of the better centers in football, by the way. So it'll be a real test. To me, Steve, you kind of touched on it. I think the key guy in this game is Schlesinger. Because it's going to be in containing Henry and in containing Lamar in the run game, containing both of their legs is going to be big. You have to worry about Lamar, then you have to worry about this guy named Derrick Henry. When he gets up ahead of speed, that's going to be the key. Is when he gets up ahead of speed, look out in that secondary because Ward and Newsom and those corners.
I heard that Grant Delpa said he's not a hard guy to tackle. I don't know what he was thinking when he was saying that, Dave, because everyone else would beg to differ on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
I like his confidence, if that's anything.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you watched that Bills game last week, I asked any of those Bills defenders, especially in the secondary, I think they would disagree with that as well. Let's get to the Browns offense. It's going to be interesting to see. I really feel the path to the Browns' success offensively, and Steve got into this, it's going to be Joe Flacco having a big game. I mean, the example of this was a year ago. What was the path to victory? Jameis had a great day throwing the ball against them. 334 yards passing, 3 touchdowns in the upset victory. I do think the Browns' passing game can do some things in this game. It's going to be interesting to see if the Ravens can generate a little bit better pass rush than we saw last week. Van Noy was their best pass rusher a year ago, although it was Josh Allen last week. And if you look at it, he had the ability to do things with his legs to avoid the pass rush. He was able to get some key yards running the ball on the ground in that game. Joe Flacco's more of a statue.
Yeah, he's not going to be running much.
Yeah. So, I think the O-line, though, last week, one encouraging thing was really good in pass pro. You'll see the PFF grades, particularly for our 2 guards, Petonio and Teller, were over 75 and over 80. So, they did a really good job of keeping Flacco upright. It was the run blocking. They weren't opening very many holes in the run game last week. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman need to play well. I agree with Steve. I think they can get after Alexander and Humphrey. You saw it last week. Keon Coleman had a big day catching the ball, with over 100 yards receiving against that secondary as well. Remember, Tillman went, your guy, Steve, 7 catches, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
It was big. It was big.
It was huge.
Was that his? I know that's your guy, Steve. Shout out to Steve. It will be really interesting to see the passing game. I don't see the Browns' run game. I have my doubts about how much damage they can do. I mean, the Ravens had the best run defense in the NFL last year. So I'm leery about how much. 12 carries, Steve.
Okay, do you think Judkins is ready to play this game? He was not in training camp. I think he stayed in shape.
Yeah.
Well,
I was more
how
like
many carries what do you think, Dave?
6 or 7. I was 10 to 12 seems a little bit on the high side. If he gets 10 to 12, I'd be happy with that. And I'd be really interested to see what he can do, especially after missing the time. I think the other factor in this game, by the way, other than Judy and Tillman, is the 12 personnel, the 2 tight end sets. They ran it over 50% of the time against the Bengals last week. Fannin had that really nice game with 7 receptions. Can he duplicate that performance? So, I mean, Judy, Tillman, maybe a little bit of Njoku, maybe a little bit of Fannin in the passing game. I think that's the Browns' best route, and the team holding up in pass pro. The offense is going to have to have a big day out of Joe Flacco for them to pull this one out. That's just the.
And don't you agree you're going to have to see some long balls?
Well, I think they'll
at least a couple times.
I think they'll test it. Especially as you get closer to midfield. Once you cross midfield, maybe that play action, deep shot. Now, you need the benefit of a little bit of running game to sell that. Now, the Ravens watched a lot of tape. I'm sure, they don't want to repeat that defensive performance of last week. And let's remember, that was Josh Allen last week, who they were going against. So
MVP.
But yeah, let's keep some context on that. In conclusion, I want to come into this game with some confidence. It's just difficult. I really like the defense. I was encouraged with last week. I think if our corners stay healthy, Steve, I like Schlesinger at linebacker. I think, again, this is going to be a top 10 defense. I think Schlesinger needs to play really good at linebacker to contain Lamar's legs and to contain Henry. We need a big day out of Flacco. It's just going to be tough. Just too much Lamar, too much Henry here. I got the Ravens 31-20.
Wow.
Ooh, close.
Okay, well said. All right, guys, we're going to get into our next topic. That is the game of the week selection. And we will start with Mr. Steve Retzer. Steve, what is your game of the week? And give us also a score prediction as well.
All right, boys. I have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. This game is a rematch of the Super Bowl in which the Eagles are going to win, and Patrick Mahomes was running for his life. If you guys remember watching that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Last week, the Chiefs lost in Brazil to the Chargers, and the Eagles beat the Cowboys.
Yeah.
This is looking to be a tough start of the year for the Chiefs. Receiver Xavier Worthy suffered a dislocated shoulder after colliding with teammate Travis Kelce on just the third play of the game against the Chargers.
We watched that game.
So he's rolled out for the game. That's really unfortunate for the Chiefs because the Chiefs they're off to a rough start, boys. I can tell you that. One thing they do have an advantage though is they're at home and they're playing at Arrowhead Stadium, which is always difficult and always loud. That's the best advantage the Chiefs have in this game. The Chiefs need to get off to a fast start, guys. They need to lead and get a score touchdowns, and get in the red zone.
Who's going to contribute though to the Chiefs at receiver? I mean, you got you got Taylor Swift's new fiance here, so you've got that. I mean, maybe a little. I think Juju a little bit. I mean, I just don't know who makes plays for Mahomes.
With Worthy out,
yes.
Hollywood Brown, he had 10 receptions last week, so I think he'll be involved. Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster is going to have to get back to his Pittsburgh days. And,
I don't know
be
about
ready.
that.
You're right. Travis Kelce, if he can put Taylor Swift to the side, not think about her, he definitely needs to have a huge game.
Can we make a Travis Kelce reference without making a Taylor Swift reference?
I don't think you can. Brent, I don't think you can nowadays. I mean, they're just always together.
Are we
they're always together.
Well, I don't know. I think that Mr. Kelce, I think he's, like I said, a couple more years, and then they're going to go off into the sunset, those two. And then he's got that podcast. So that's what not a big, his NFL days are kind of coming to an end.
He'll be going on Taylor Swift tour dates.
Yeah.
In a couple of years.
He'll be going along on the tour with Taylor. Oh my God, they'll probably have a reality show and everything that we don't want to see.
It coming.
All right, keep going, Steve.
All right, Brent. So I think the Chiefs need to establish a run game in this game.
That would definitely
Isaiah Pacheco's the starter.
Yeah.
But you know who I'd like to see?
Go ahead.
Kareem Hunt, former Brown.
Yeah,
Kareem Hunt. He's always up for a challenge. I think he can have a good game, even though he's the backup running back. I've seen this last year. Even though he's the backup, he gets up for big games like this, and I could see him doing well. I really could. So expect to see him getting a few rushes, catching a few balls too in the backfield.
Yeah,
I could see that.
I like Pacheco. I actually thought he would have been a more productive back over these last couple seasons. Because he was big on their Super Bowl run.
Yeah, he seemed to play good in the playoffs and in Super Bowls. He played well.
Yeah.
Let's get to the Eagles' defense. It's led by Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
Nolan Smith Jr. and Zach Bond, excellent linebackers, respectively.
It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, they're tough. This is a way different team, though, from last year and in the Super Bowl, guys. The Eagles lost defensive linemen. They lost Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. Those were two big defensive linemen they lost last year. Corner Darius Slay went to Pittsburgh. They lost safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I mean, these are big-name guys that I think even the average football fan has probably even heard of. So it's a newer look on defense from last season. Jalen Hurts, Eagles quarterback, I think he's the most underrated out there. I do.
Yeah.
If they win games, I think it's because of him.
Well,
people always like to say, it's because of the roster, it's because of the defense. I mean, can't we give Jalen credits, Dave?
Yeah,
Can we give Jalen Hurts some credit?
Well, me and Brent talked about this. There was some uneven play by him towards the end of the season. But you could see when he hit some throws down the field in the championship game against Washington and then again in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. What were both of those games? They were big-time blowouts.
Yeah.
Because once you have, with this defense and with Barkley running the football, if he's getting the ball down the field to Devontae and A.J. Brown, forget it. Case closed. You're not now. To me, the big thing with him is his legs. He does a lot, not just the Philly special or the push, but it's extending plays outside the pocket and on like a 3rd and 6, him getting 7 yards scrambling to extend a drive. That's really, to me, where he does a lot of his damage, and I think he can be really dangerous. But sometimes the passing can be a little inconsistent. But I agree with you, Steve. He probably should get more credit than he does.
Yeah. I mean, Hurts, he's a dual-threat quarterback, and it makes his job easier when he can hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley, who we know had the monster season last year. Barkley only had 60 yards against the Cowboys last week. I look for him to have a bigger game this week. And like you just said, Dave, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, they were stopped against the Cowboys. They barely had any receptions or yards. I don't think that this will be the case in the game with the Chiefs.
I am interested to see the defensive game plan that Spags comes up with in this game. He really didn't do a very good job of getting after Justin Herbert in that game. And Herbert picked him apart. We talked about that and watching.
They weren't aggressive enough.
They were not aggressive enough defensively. It's going to be really interesting if he comes up with some blitz packages to get after Hurts. That's traditionally not the best way to do it. You kind of want to keep him contained, keep him in the pocket, and not allow him to utilize his legs. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of the defensive game plan he comes up with this week. I still think he's one of the best defensive coordinators in football. So, that's going to be an interesting on that side of the ball to see how they contain Hurts in the run game.
Yep. Tight end Dallas Goedert, he had a big game last week against Dallas. I heard, I seen on NFL Network, I guess he's marked out with injury. So that's unfortunate because he had a big game last week. Like you just said, Dave, the Chiefs defense is led by Coach Spags. Defensive lineman Chris Jones, he's the anchor of the defense.
Yeah.
George Karlaftis, he's the key pass rusher on the line as well.
Yep.
Trent McDuffie and Jaden Hicks, they lead the way in the Chiefs secondary. This game is going to be nothing like the Super Bowl, so don't expect that. I mean, a little different roster for the Eagles, on the defensive side of things. I do think the Eagles will be too much. I have the Eagles winning 2017 in a close one.
Oh, wow. See, I think there's going to be more points in that game. But I
don't think they're scoring. I think it's low scoring.
And I also think Philly's going to win by about a touchdown or more on that.
Wow.
I think so.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs, this is a tough game for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Herbert, that offense may have exposed some things against that defense. The interesting thing will be the Chiefs' offensive line, too. It had a horrible game in that Super Bowl last year when Mahomes was running around for his life in a lot of instances. Brent talked about it. The play design and play calling by Reed could have been better. I agree with it.
Yeah.
But, Yeah, by the way, this is your Super Bowl picks here, Steve.
I know.
They could fall to 0-2.
Well, they're off. They've never been 0-2, I don't think. Not in many years.
Here's my take on this. I think they're going to get off to a slow start this year, the Chiefs, and they're going to have a strong second half.
Yeah, the main thing is to be
I think
strong.
that's what's going to happen. Yep.
If you have to be weak, you better do it now. Get it out of the way. They're going to be
And
better.
something I've noticed with the Chiefs,
later.
just by watching them all these years, how do you not watch them? They're always playing on
Sure.
4:30 games.
Yep.
I noticed that they don't always give you the playbook early in the season. They'll hold on to some things till later, and then they'll hit their stride. They do a lot of
Andy Reid will have
timing.
something up his sleeve.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think Rashid Rice can eventually be a big threat for them at wide receiver.
he's solid.
Once
He's
they
solid.
get him back from
Yeah.
suspension, that'll help out a little bit. But you're right, Steve. Juju, some of these other guys, they're going to have to. Hollywood
step up.
have to step up and make some
They
plays.
can't drop passes either.
No,
They got to
but
catch them.
They're going to need to make some plays.
Okay. All right, we're going to go to Mr. Dave Greenshield. Dave, what is your game of the week?
Well, this is an interesting one, and I had both of these teams kind of vying for the last wild card in the NFC this year coming into the season, and that's Falcons versus the Vikings. Two great young franchise quarterbacks in J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix. This is the first matchup since that 2024 national championship game when Penix was at Washington and JJ was up north at Michigan. It's going to be interesting to see both teams after week one. The Vikings were able to come back in the fourth quarter, that 17-6 deficit led by JJ, 87 yards passing, 3 total touchdowns. Stevie came through. I got to admit to Brent and to Steve, he came through in the fourth. He was able to hit some really nice throws.
And he ran for a touchdown as well.
Yeah.
Team JJ.
Well,
wow.
I like JJ.
He had a couple big throws from the pocket. I'll get into that in a second. By the way, the tough one for the Falcons last week, I have to get to that as well. 23-20 at home. Young Ho Koo missed the potential game-time field goal from 44 yards out. Penix played really well in his fourth start of his career. He threw for 298. Hit that 50-yard screen pass for a touchdown to Bijan Robinson. He's an interesting factor for me. I actually think Bijan's one of the 3 or 4 best running backs in football and going to be in the next few years a candidate to be one of the 2 best running backs in the game. Him and Jahmyr Gibbs are really, to me, the future at running back in the NFL. It's going to be interesting to see if he can give him a little bit more of a run game this week. Only 24 yards on 12 carries. He did have that nice day catching the ball, 6 receptions, for 100 yards. It's going to be an interesting challenge for a very tough Vikings front seven. Linebacker Andrew Van Kinkel was going to be out this week. The Vikings really, though, do have a very good front seven. Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave. I mean, you talked about him in the game review. He had 2 sacks last week.
Yeah, Hargrave is solid.
A good player. The Falcons could really use some balance to this offense. I think Bijan Robinson having a solid day on the ground obviously would be a real huge help to Penix. Remember, he went for over 1,400 yards on the ground last year, so he had a great year running the football. The Falcons are expecting the services of both Mooney and Drake London. There were some, rumors earlier in the week that they might not be healthy and might not be able to play. They're both looking to be in the lineup, so that's going to be a big help to Penix have his number 1 and number 2 threats at the wide receiver position. It's going to be interesting for me to see also Kyle Pitts, who's a guy I loved coming out of Florida at tight end. If he can start to get more involved in this offense, if he gives Penix a third target with Bijan running the football, this is going to be a really, really interesting offense going forward. He has the playmakers to move the ball against this defense. It's going to be really interesting to see what type of a defensive game plan Brian Flores comes up in this game. I think he's developed into one of the best defensive coordinators in football, Steve.
No, Dave, he's excellent.
Yeah,
he makes adjustments. Even if they do something in the first half, Flores will have something ready in the second half.
Yeah, Belichick guy, disciple, obviously didn't work out in Miami. It's going to be interesting to see. I think he'll get another shot, eventually down the road.
I think he will, too, for head coach.
Yeah. The Vikings, defense might be without the services of safety Harrison Smith. The Vikings offense is going to be very interesting. He gained a lot of confidence. I think JJ gained a lot of confidence in that fourth quarter last week. He really
It's going
did.
to carry over.
Yeah, I think it will. He's in a really good situation. We've talked about it before. I'm a big O'Connell fan. I think you guys are both big O'Connell fans as coach. I do think that the playmakers are around him. He really showed it in the fourth. He hit a really nice out route to Mr. Jefferson, to his money man, Justin Jefferson. And then I thought that in-breaking route for the touchdown was a really nice throw. 2 really good throws. And that cut the lead to 17-12, and the Vikings just went from there. It's going to be interesting to see also if they get a contribution from veteran Adam Thielen. He was acquired. Jordan Addison is still serving his second of a 3-game suspension, their number 2 wide receiver. So I think he's going to need to step up and make some plays this week.
Yeah, he didn't have any catches. He needs to get involved.
Yeah, because he's their number 2 right now with Addison serving the suspension. Atlanta got off to a good start defensively last week. They held the Bucs to only 260 total yards, although Baker did throw for 3 touchdowns, came through with that big touchdown to your guy, Emeka.
Emeka, 2 of them, baby. 2.
Exactly.
2 times.
Yeah, he came through in the fourth quarter when he needed to. It's going to be interesting to see if James Pierce Jr. can get a pass rush going. He led the team in pressures last week. The run game is going to be really interesting for the Vikings as well. Aaron Jones, who I think is one of the more underrated backs in football, was great for Green Bay for those years, had 1,100 yards rushing. Really the key back last week was Jordan Mason. If you go back and watch that fourth quarter, he had some big runs in that fourth quarter in that comeback versus the Bears. 15 carries for 68 yards in that fourth quarter, several good runs. It's going to be interesting to see if the Vikings can give JJ some balance on the ground with those 2 backs. Just in conclusion, overall, I think this is going to be a really interesting one. I picked the Falcons to make the playoffs, guys, at the beginning of the year, and I picked the Vikings to just miss the playoffs. And I like Penix, and I like their weapons, especially Bijan at running back. I just think that this defense of the Vikings that Flores has is going to come up with a solid game plan. Call me crazy. I'm buying the JJ hype, guys. I like Flores at defensive coordinator, as I mentioned. Give me the Vikings at home, 28-24.
Wow, well said, Dave.
I love it.
Glad you picked the Vikings. I know Steve and I are big
think I wrote off on
JJ.
Dave. Me and Brent are big JJ fans.
Yeah, you're drinking the Retzer Kool-Aid, I think. Anyways, we're going to get to my game of the week. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm all Cincinnati on this one.
By the way, can I just say this? Is there ever a quarterback you like more than one guy and dislike more than the other guy in this game?
This is like, no, the other one would be Herbert.
Okay, but Trevor Lawrence is probably right underneath there.
If you had to,
Herbert or Lawrence?
Herbert and Lawrence are both, to me, frauds.
Yes.
And they will choke. It's like the Cowboys. It's like the black cat theory.
Okay.
If you see the black cat at night, you're going to probably, something bad's going to happen to you, whatever. That is Trevor Lawrence, and that is Mr. Herbert.
By the way, real quick, a rematch of also a national championship game, the 2020 championship game between Clemson and LSU in this one.
Yeah.
When Lawrence was at Clemson, obviously Burrow had that special season at LSU.
Yeah. Yeah, and just some quick stats here. The Bengals held the Browns to 2 yards per carry this past week. And I think that they'll contain the Jags' rushing attack. I think the Bengals will protect Burrow. He'll get some time in the pocket, and he's going to exploit that Jacksonville secondary. I kind of anticipate that. I think that, Jacksonville, they did get the win against the Panthers. That's a nice W. Yeah. It didn't hold up to Dave's bold prediction, but, he did get the win, so that does count. So, Mr. Lawrence.
10's not a bad score. He just didn't have the big numbers.
Well,
right, Dave?
Well, he can't get out. Oh, you're right. With your receiver for your bold prediction, he couldn't match that. But anyway,
listen. I'll say this. I'm going to give my guy a little bit of credit here. Trevor got off to a decent start last week against Carolina. I thought he would expose a weak defense. Yeah. I still think he's facing a defense that's questionable. Flacco threw the ball against that secondary last week. So,
Travis Etienne had a big running game, too. I think 143 yards rushing or something.
Yeah, it was over 130, over 140, something like that. Yeah. I just think Lawrence it's consistency. It's the same thing with Caleb Williams. Can you put it together for 4 quarters? You get off to a good start. There's this good quarter, bad quarter thing. And, I think Hunter can do some damage against this secondary. What do you think, Brent? You think we see some points in this one?
I do. I do. Yeah, in this game, guys, just so you know, this is a home game for the Cincinnati Bengals.
The home opener.
And I'll tell you right now, if you guys watch the Bengals in previous seasons, they play very well at home. They do great at home. So I think that's a huge advantage. I do think there's going to be some points in this game. This will be a shootout. I have the Cincinnati Bengals winning 42-27.
Okay.
And it's but have you guys been watching the Bengals last few years? Like some of these games, if you remember, it was 45-40. Well, a lot of shootouts.
Well, they are known for the slow starts. This is still the
second
game
that's true.
of the year.
Very true.
Year, yeah.
I expect Burrow to play better. I don't see 2 bad games in a row for Burrow. So, by the way, Brent is saying if you have Joe Burrow in fantasy football, he's going to have a day today.
He's going to have a great day. No doubt about it. All right, guys, that will get into the last topic, and that is the bold prediction for this week. And we will start out with Mr. Dave Greenchild. Dave, give us a bold prediction.
Well, you know what? Me and Steve might be of like mind on this. And I'm going to go with another quarterback. I went with a quarterback prediction last week. One of my quarterbacks I like. By the way, I don't know if Brent is as big on this guy as me and Steve are. But I'm going to go with Drake May. I think he's going to throw for 3 touchdowns against the Dolphins. I think he's going to bounce back. You know, he was good at times against the Raiders last week, but did not end up with great numbers, had an interception in that game. You know, he needs to be a little bit better. Although I think that Raiders team is going to be a very under-the-radar, sneaky good team this year, by the way. The Dolphins secondary is totally suspect, and that's being kind. Danny Dimes last week exploited to the tune of 22 of 29, for 272 yards and a touchdown. By the way, look out for Kayshon Boutte. I like a little Boutte in my life. Pause.
I see an edit coming.
and Hunter Henry.
Man.
To be the main targets in this game for Drake May. He was off last week against the Raiders. I think the secondary of the Dolphins is a perfect way for him to respond. I think he puts up solid numbers. I could maybe even see him in the upper 200s, maybe even close to 300 yards passing in this one. I think he exploits the Dolphins. The Patriots get their first victory. Steve, you're going to get into that.
I am.
Mr. May, well, it might happen. I think not a bad pick because I think Miami is they're having a rough time right now. So maybe he can get on the. I do think that they do beat Miami. I don't know about what you said there, but I think that they will. I think Vrabel gets his first W. So that'll lead to Mr. Steve Retzer. Steve, do you have a bold prediction this week?
Brent, I do. And I have the same game, Patriots at the Dolphins. My bold prediction is that the Patriots will beat the Dolphins in Miami. Did you guys know that Tua is 7-0 all-time playing against the Patriots since he's been a Dolphin? And that streak is going to end on Sunday in the Sunshine State. The Patriots won't be down there to take a vacation, as they'll be down there to take care of business. Hence, that is the mentality of new head coach Mike Vrabel, known for his leadership and no-nonsense approach. For the Dolphins, Mike McDaniels is the number 1 head coach that is on the hot seat right now.
Easily.
The Dolphins lost to the Colts 33-8 last week, which shocked me, as you know, and the world, I would say. The Patriots did lose to the Raiders last week 20-13. So both teams had disappointing losses. They both need victories. I think Drake May plays better. And I think Travion Henderson is going to have over 100 yards rushing. So, bold prediction, let's go New England Patriots, get Mike Vrabel his first victory, baby, and go Pats.
Yeah, you know, Tua at times looked okay against the Colts last week. It's not completely on Tua, although I think we are always waiting for Tua to suffer an injury, and that offensive line could be a little bit better. He still has really good weapons out there. I mean, the Waddle-Hill combination is still very good at wide receiver. Yeah, but, you know, it's just, you know, you look at this team, the offensive line isn't good, the secondary is getting exploited. Yeah. You know, Mike McDaniels might be a casualty some of the deficiencies on this roster, by the way.
I was telling Steve, and you can tell me if you disagree. I mean, other than the Miami Heat, you know, the basketball team that with LeBron, and I don't see a lot of success in that city because
Brent thinks it's tough to coach in Miami.
There are a lot of distractions. I mean, the Marlins had some teams that were kind of mercenaries. The Bobby Bonilla, you know, they won the two championships. 2003 and 1 in 97.
Yes.
But they were clean. You know, if you think about it, the next year they cleaned house. They got a whole new team.
Yep.
These Dolphins teams, they just kind of fit the city of Miami. Hey, practice is over. Let's go party. Let's go surfing. They're not focused. I think it's a hard team. I think it's a hard place to coach, and I think they're going to need someone else that's a little more disciplined to coach that team. I think Mike McDaniel's he's kind of an easier coach. I don't think he's hard on his players as much as you need to be.
Yeah, I think he was kind of brought in to be like an offensive schemer, like we see so many of the Ben Johnsons, the O'Connells, going back all the way to McVays and Kyle Shanahan's.
Yeah.
But the situation is simple here. You get a quarterback that had injury problems coming out of Alabama. You get an offensive line that's got some serious questions to it, that's got the makings of him getting injured again. The only season he completed was that season a couple years ago where they didn't make the playoffs in 2023.
Yeah.
And I had questions about Tua coming out of Alabama. But again, I thought they had surrounded him with pretty good weapons. McDaniel's not about offensive mind. But when the roster declines in some areas, and especially in the offensive line, especially in the secondary, it's going to be really interesting to me if he makes it through the entire season.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to make it.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll make it. Yeah, they just, not getting it done. All right, boys, let's get some final thoughts, and we'll wrap it up.
Well, guys, I'm ready for this Browns-Ravens game. I'm pumped up. I've been pumped up all week. Everyone thinks it's a blowout. I don't think so. I'm ready, guys.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I'm interested to see how the Browns' offense, if Joe Flacco can kind of continue to build off the success he had last week throwing the ball against the Bengals. It's their best path to victory. But man, that Lamar and Derrick Henry combination is really tough.
Lethal.
Yeah, I did not kind of give when you guys did your your preview. I didn't really get into mine too much there, but I'm going to mention it now. I think this is going to be a blowout. I got the Ravens winning 31-14.
Wow.
And I feel like the Buffalo game is the reason why they're just going to come out guns a-blazing and they're just going to do well today. And I think Cleveland, they're a little bit down on their luck. I think they know they had a game in their hands. They missed it with the field goals and extra kick, some of those interceptions. And I think that it's in their head a little bit. I feel like it's in their head.
By the way, I didn't want to bring a kicker up today.
Yes, please.
I didn't bring it up at all. Let's not go there. Let's just not go there.
I think we got into way too much of that in the review on Thursday. But I agree with you. This schedule, though, this early part of the schedule for the Browns is just daunting, by the way. It's just daunting. Yeah. It's not going to get any easier with Green Bay coming up and the Vikings coming up and Detroit coming up. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I would love to see Cleveland do well today, but I think there is a chance for that. But I just think with Baltimore is going to be hungry today, and mainly because they had the heartbreaker. What are they up, Dave? 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, they're up 15 points twice in that game.
Yeah.
And blew that lead. So, they're going to be watching film. I'm sure they're going to make some defensive adjustments from last week. And bottom line, they're not facing Josh Allen again. So,
and they probably didn't like that loss with the Browns last year. Was it last year? No, that was 2 years ago.
No, it was last year.
That's right, in Cleveland. Yeah. So this is the 30th year anniversary. So they want to.
Their fans, they're going to want to.
They want to win this game. So it's a big one. But let's hope it's close, like Steve said. Let's hope it's close, and maybe we come out ahead. All right, guys, have a good one. Take care.